My name is Ryan and I'm in recovery. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I am 38 years old. I'm in recovery from cocaine addiction. Something I've been battling for a long time, since my teenage years. The kind of level of addiction and how bad it got was this big secret for many, many years, and it all kind of came out early this year. My family and my loved ones found out, and steps were then taken, and I went to rehab. I've since been documenting my journey to recovery via these TikTok videos, as well as giving kind of insight on my recovery and things I'm kind of learning along the way. I also talk a bit about my past. I worked in the music industry, so I share some stories about kind of running shows, dealing with DJs, the drugs involved in the scene, that kind of thing. And I thought I'd share another one of those types of stories. This one very much shines a bad light on my own behaviour, and it's worth saying it's not something I'm proud of. I can kind of look back and chuckle at these sorts of stories now, but yeah, it was definitely not my finest hour. So yeah, it's going back a fair few years. We'd booked this New York DJ duo to come and play at the club I was working on. They were favourite DJs of mine. They did a regular Sunday party in London like 4 times a year that I would never miss, and I was really excited to get them to come and play at the club. So it all been confirmed, all sorted. They were playing on the Thursday of Easter weekend, so the Thursday night before Good Friday, which anyone that lives in London will know is a pretty raucous night out in London. The novelty of not having to go to work on the Friday tends to make everyone go pretty wild on that Thursday. So yeah, we had them booked. They during the day on the Thursday, they checked into the hotel. One of the duo called me, really annoyed, and was like, "We don't have late checkout books for tomorrow. We really need late checkout books because we need to make sure we get enough sleep. We're currently on a really tight touring schedule, and we need that extra sleep to make sure we perform to the standard that's expected of us." I thought that was a bit of a diva statement, but he was also like getting really annoyed because he was like, "Late checkout is standard for these sorts of bookings." It isn't standard, at least not for the company I worked at. But I called the hotel and was like, can I arrange for a late checkout, even offer just to pay for an extra night in the room just so they can get the sleep they needed. But the hotel was fully booked. It was Easter weekend. It's a nice hotel, so they were too busy to accommodate the request. So I had to call back the DJ, tell him. Needless to say, he met it with hostility. He was super annoyed at me. He was like, swearing down the phone. It was all pretty hostile and aggressive. It also just made it a bit awkward because I was taking the two DJs out for dinner before the show. So yeah, a few hours later we met up for dinner. The DJ that I hadn't spoke to on the phone was very polite, very courteous, didn't say a whole lot, but yeah, was nice enough. The DJ that I spoke to on the phone was just hostile throughout dinner. There's a really like kind of off vibe, and the dinner was not particularly nice experience, but just got through it. Walked around to the club to do sound check and play the show. After sound check, we were kind of just in the green room getting ready for doors open. They were doing an all night long set, by the way, open to close. Because the atmosphere was still just a bit edgy, I decided I'd just bring it up with the DJ. So I kind of pulled him to one side and was like, "Look, I'm really sorry we didn't get you that late checkout. But how about I will arrange your taxi back to the hotel after the show. I'll make sure that the taxi is basically waiting by the back exit of the club at 4 o'clock on the dot when you're due to finish your set, and then I'll just escort you straight through the back, and you can be in your taxi a few minutes after 4 and get back to the hotel, saving you, a bit of time, getting you that extra sleep that you need to deliver your next show to the required standard." So this kind of appeased him. He was like, literally his whole demeanour just changed straight away. He was like really happy. He was like, "I'm so happy that you pulled me to the side and offered a solution. That's really great of you. Thanks so much." The show then basically started, was all going fine. It's worth kind of saying as well that when I'm hosting the DJ, I tend to I just go to whatever their level is. You get some DJs that want to really party hard and kind of want you to be involved in it, and in them instances, like I've mentioned in other videos, I kind of join in and kind of keep to their pace. But there's some DJs that don't drink, or some DJs that are just taking it easy, and I go to their pace. And these two were kind of taking it fairly easy, just drinking a few beers, not going too crazy. But what then happened is a load of staff from the company I worked at that ran the club turned up, and they were all on like a kind of staff night out, having a mad one. They'd been out for hours already, and were like ordering rounds of shots and doing loads of drugs in the green room and blah blah blah. And so I started to partake, was joining them and drinking lots of Cafe Patron, doing a load of cope with them. And yeah, I'm not proud to say I basically got a bit sloppy, probably a bit too drunk considering the DJs I was working with were, you know, trying to keep it on a bit more of a professional vibe. But I was kind of on a level. It wasn't like I was, you know, off my face or anything like that. But then it came to towards the end of the night, and the DJ that I'd kind of spoken to earlier about getting that taxi came over and was like, "Oh, did you arrange the taxi?" And I was like, "Oh, I had actually forgotten." But I was like, "Yeah, it's all sorted." So I quickly called the car company up we used for the DJ taxis and was like, "I need a taxi booked for 4 o'clock on the dot." Blah blah blah. He was like, "Oh, we can't. We're fully booked. We can't arrange any cars." I was like, "Oh, shit." So I was like, "I'm just gonna have to take my chance with Uber, and just hope that, yeah, it all goes smoothly." So yeah, I ordered an Uber. I dropped the pin to the back exit of the club, but for whatever reason, the Uber didn't stop there. Maybe it couldn't, maybe it was too busy or something, I don't know. But it was only just around the corner. But basically, 4 o'clock on the dot, as agreed, I escorted the two DJs out the back exit. But as soon as we went out into the fresh air, I just suddenly felt really drunk, and I was like, oh, it kind of hit me. And the change in atmosphere really made me aware of how kind of drunk I felt. And all of a sudden, I was looking at the car on, you know, when you get an Uber, you can kind of look at the way you are and look at where the car is on the map and just like walk towards it. But I was basically too drunk to work out how to get closer to the car. But I was also too proud, I guess, to kind of tell them that I couldn't do it because I was too drunk. It was pretty unprofessional. So I just kind of walked them around in circles for about 10 minutes until the kind of Aggie DJ of the duo started shouting at me and was like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're clearly off your face. Like, this is so unacceptable, blah, blah, blah." And was just going at me. And then for some reason, I just decided, fuck this. I was just like, "Oh, do you know what? Fuck off." And then just turned and ran down the road. But I ran into a cul-de-sac. And I was like, well, I can't now go back and walk back after I've just told the guy to F off. So it was like a cul-de-sac, but it was like an entrance to like a park, or I just remember there being like a metal, like spiked, gated fence. So rather than just kind of turn back and try and resolve the situation, I decided to scale the fence, very inebriated. As I scaled the fence, I had like my, the trousers I was wearing kind of had like turn-ups, and the turn-up got hooked on the spike of the fence, and as I went to jump off, and I just ended up, the spike ripped through my trousers, ripped up my trousers, and I tipped over, bashed my face onto the fence, and just fell into a heap on the floor. Went to get up to run away, stacked it, face planted, bashed my face again, cut all my eye, bruised all my eye. Yeah, it must have looked mental. And then proceeded to kind of just do a couple of laps of the park, thinking if I just walk around for a bit, they'll eventually go away and I'll just go back to the club. So I did that, walked back to the club, and the two DJs were just stood outside the club waiting, and I was like, oh my god, they're going to go absolutely mental at me. And they kind of just looked at me with my ripped trousers and bruised and battered face and just kind of shook their heads and didn't even say anything. I just walked into the club and went and cleaned myself up. Next thing I know, I was getting like screen grabs from my boss and from a few other people, like agents and managers in the music industry, saying that these guys had like gone online and done a big thing about how unprofessional I'd been, like trying to just kind of out me basically and say what a disgrace I was. And they then proceeded to kind of make it their prerogative just to spread the bad word about me. It seemed like for years I'd bump into people like agents or managers or just, you know, various people in the music industry, and some would know me already and find it really funny, or someone would be like, "Oh, you're that guy who got really wasted." And ran off, told the DJs to F off and ran off. And I was like, yeah, that's me. So it didn't do wonders for my reputation. But yeah, there's a little ditty for you.